All right, everybody, what's up? We're back, running it again. You're never going to believe this. More crazy shit has been going on. Let's jump right. We thought the Easter tweet from Trump couldn't be topped, but let's take a look at this. Let's just start with Trump's latest video.
Post that picture of yourself depicted as Jesus Christ.
Well, it wasn't depicted. It was me. I did post it, and I thought it was me as a doctor, and had to do with Red Cross as a Red Cross worker.
So first of all, already right, he starts us off with, first of all, it wasn't a picture. Like, really, thank you, Mr. President. We were concerned that you thought this was an actual picture, but no. And then he hits us with he thought he was a Red Cross doctor here.
There, which we support, and only the fake news could come up with that one. So I just heard about it, and I said, how did they come up with that? It's supposed to be me as a doctor making people better, and I do make people better. I make people a lot better.
How did anyone come up with this picture could be Donald Trump depicting himself as Jesus? I don't know. You look at it and tell me. How could anyone except the fake news come to this conclusion here? By the way, and Jon Stewart was making this joke too, this guy looks like Jon Stewart. Some people say this actually looks like Jeffrey Epstein, but it looks more like Jon Stewart. I don't know what we're doing here. And some people are like, this is a demon up here above Trump's head. I don't know. It just looks like AI slop to me, actually. But how? The balls that Trump has to hit us with. No, I thought I was a doctor. I thought this whole thing was just about me being in the Red Cross, which Donald Trump's never been a part of, by the way. You know that whole thing about him, look at that. He just looks so much. It's just so clearly trying to depict him as Jesus here. And I don't know what's worse. Do you think Donald Trump actually runs his social media and is actually posting these pictures? Because I don't know. I get torn on this all the time. Like, the tweets do sound like Trump, but you got to think that he's got like a White House intern or something, helping him with this Twitter account. And maybe he just doesn't want to admit it. He can't admit that there's, actually other people posting things on here. Maybe an insane person posting things on here. And so he's just like, no, fuck it. It's me. I'll sell it that I was in the Red Cross. So this is just me as a doctor. I don't know how anyone could think this is Jesus, despite being dressed exactly like Jesus, have glowing hands and healing a sick person. But whatever, who knows? So then Donald Trump, some report came out that, and this wasn't actually a report, this was just people supposing this on Twitter, but it's kind of a funny theory, that after this whole thing blew up, the press secretary told him to, instead of pretending that he is a doctor, told him, hey, say the image is doctored. And Donald Trump just kind of, listened in passing. It was like, yeah, whatever, doctor, something or another. And then came up with that, no, I'm actually just a doctor in the picture. Which I don't know if I buy the theory that much, because just, he kind of does start with, this isn't really like a photograph. This is, some AI image. Like, yeah, no shit. Trying to sell this as, well, this image is doctored. Yeah, I would think so. I would imagine this picture is doctored. And that would almost be as stupid a response as I thought I was just a doctor. I don't know how anyone could see this as Jesus. I don't know, man. Trump's a wild dude. A wild, wild dude. I think he just is trying to distract from the war, actually. And so like, what could I come up with here to really change the conversation? Just like how they trotted out Melania to start talking about Epstein again. Like they launched this war to distract from Epstein in part, maybe. And then they're like, okay, the war's going so bad, so now it's time to trot Melania back out. Let's bring back the Epstein story to distract from the war. Okay. Whatever we got going on here. I don't know. This is a bad look for Trump. People are like, how can you defend this? I'm not going to. I'm just going to laugh because it's stupid. It's kind of ridiculous. It gives you probably a look into how Trump actually views himself. He's probably some kind of narcissist, but whatever. Doesn't everybody make AI pictures of themselves as Jesus healing Jon Stewart or Jeffrey Epstein? And then sell it as just being a doctor? I don't know. Maybe you guys do that. I don't. But then we got even crazier stuff going on with actual real world implications. Trump has decided that he's going to open the Strait of Hormuz by shutting the Strait of Hormuz. That he's saying, all right, if Iran's not going to let our ships through, they're not going to let our allies' ships through, nobody's getting through. So the United States is now putting a blockade on the Strait of Hormuz, along with Iran. So now there's 2 blockades. And there's audio out about, the United States Navy intercepting ships and all sorts of stuff. Whatever. This is all ridiculous. People are still defending it. We've got a great video here for you guys on Douglas Murray.
Didn't work. Now what? Do we cut and run or do we stay the course? I hope Donald Trump is the abandoner he's always been. I hope he is the guy who has never not abandoned anything in his life except his love for tariffs. And I hope he does what America always done. These people who say, we'll get a reputation for cutting. We always cut and run. We did it in Vietnam. We did it in Iraq. We did it to the Kurds. We did it in Afghanistan. We did it in Beirut. That's us. No lifeguard on duty. If you get in with us, we are going to fuck you, okay? And that's Donald Trump. He's an asshole, but he's our asshole. Douglas?
I disagree. I disagree because I think once started, you have to finish this. I don't agree that it's failed. It's been an incredible.
So there we go. There's the first part from our good friend Douglas Murray, friend of the show again. Once you started, you can't finish. Or that's actually what he should have said. That once we start this thing, they never do end up being finished. Just kind of as Bill Maher said there, although I really kind of disagree with how he framed that whole thing as if, stopping Vietnam and Afghanistan and the wars in Iraq were bad things. He tried to frame that as in this kind of weird way that, we're just quitters or something. Like 20 years in Afghanistan trying to hold the Taliban off is, some mistake other than us ever being there in the first place. But whatever, Bill Maher, we can move past that. But what Douglas Murray opens off with here is, once we start it, we got to finish it. The problem is that's exactly the mentality we had in Afghanistan and Iraq and Libya and Syria and Vietnam. And we said, okay, let's spend 20 years here. Let's spend, trillions of dollars, and we still can't hold off the Taliban. By the way, the Taliban, if you believe some of the reports, was 20,000 strong in Afghanistan. We couldn't, 20 years it took us to get to a point where we thought we could leave and the military there would be able to hold them off. 2 weeks they fell. 20,000 people. Iran has 90 million people and hundreds of thousands of IRGC soldiers who, effectively run the government there. And somehow the theory here is we've got to just stick it out, man. We've started this war, and the rule. Once we start stupid wars, we gotta stick with them. We gotta stay in the stupid wars. 20 years in Afghanistan. That's what we gotta do. That's the model. If you're Douglas Murray,
Incredibly successful operation in lots of ways. Supreme leader dead, Iranian Air Force destroyed, nuclear site.
All right, and real quick, the Iranian leader being dead. Yeah, the Iranian leader is dead. The 90-year-old man that was running the country is dead, and now his son runs the country, who is, by all accounts, worse. He's more radical. He doesn't have anything against trying to get nuclear weapons, which his dad, claimed to, at least. Let's run it back a little bit here. What else did he say? The war's going so great, Douglas. Thank you.
Very successful operation in lots of ways. Supreme leader dead, Iranian Air Force destroyed, nuclear.
Yeah, the Iranian Air Force has been destroyed. You know the Tomcats that we gave / sold to the Iranians in like the 80s that they were still using? Yeah, we destroyed those. Fantastic. We should really take our rage out on the country that gave them those weapons. Who would have ever armed the Iranian Air Force? Of course, it was us. Yeah, okay, whatever. But that was back when they were our friends fighting the Iraqis. And, that whole thing went so well. You know that Saddam Hussein guy? Yeah, we were essentially paying the Iranians to fight that guy. And the Iraqis before Saddam Hussein even. The whole thing's just so ridiculous. So we destroyed their completely inept Air Force. The peak of their Air Force now and even before the strikes has been these $500 drones that they're flying at our ships at the Strait of Hormuz. But whatever. And they still have all those drones and they can produce, warehouses, more of them. And but whatever. Douglas Murray says that we destroyed it. So it went great.
Nuclear sites attacked again. Iranian Air Force destroyed. Nuclear sites attacked again.
And the nuclear sites attacked again. Here we go. The whole 12-day war. We don't need to play the clip again of Donald Trump saying, the Iranian nuclear sites have been completely obliterated. And again, they don't have the uranium to make a bomb. They never did have the uranium to make a bomb. They never had the missiles to deliver a bomb. Now they don't have an Air Force to deliver a bomb. So why do we care about hitting their nuclear sites again? Oh, yeah, it's because they have some partially enriched uranium that we didn't destroy in the 12-day war, that we haven't destroyed so far. He just said we struck the sites. It's like bragging about, throwing a punch at somebody. Like, yeah, dude, you got in a fight and you threw a punch, okay? And then that guy's telling you what a great success this whole fight was. I threw a punch. That's essentially what Douglas Murray is saying here. Again, none of the enriched uranium has been destroyed. The nuclear sites are not completely destroyed. He's just saying, we struck at him. And it's because he's in a bit of a pickle here, okay? He can't say that the uranium has been destroyed, number one, because it hasn't. He can't say any of the centrifuges have been completely destroyed or they have no capability to make a nuke and how great of a success that is, because that would undercut the whole justification for continuing the war. So he can't say any of that. But, whatever.
The navy of the Iranian revolutionary government at the bottom of the ocean. These are not...
Oh, yes, the navy. We completely forgot to talk about the Iranian Navy. The speedboats with 50 cals on them, like what the Mexican cartels ride around in? Yeah, that was what they had. We sank a Iranian aircraft carrier. Oh, wait, no, we didn't. They don't have any of those. Well, we sank some of their battleships. Maybe we may have sank one like off of India, completely outdated, I'm sure. The Iranian Navy, huge threat.
Things. No. It's not the case that the Iranian revolutionary government has come out of this well. I know some people are wanting to say that after 4 to 6 weeks of war, this is some kind of loss for America. It isn't. It's been an amazing strategic success, but everyone wants to know what the out is.
It's been an amazing strategic success, and that's why everybody's trying to figure out how the hell we get out of this. Because those two things totally make sense together. I don't know how you could even utter those words in that order and not think, man, that doesn't make any fucking sense. If this has been a huge strategic success, why are we all wondering how the hell we get out of it? Because what it feels like is a quagmire. And it feels like we've backed ourselves against a wall because we've struck the Iranian regime. They haven't fallen. Now there are consequences like the strait being shut down, and we don't know how to deal with that. That doesn't really feel like a success, actually. But Douglas Murray says it's been a great strategic success for America. That's why the strait shut down. We're trying to get it open now, of course. Was it open before the war? Yes, but ignore that. Those are just details. We don't want to get into those, get out into the weeds or anything like that. So this whole war obviously been a complete failure. Nobody knows what's going on. The Israelis haven't even gotten what they've wanted. Iran has not plunged into chaos. The IRGC is not that weak. They haven't collapsed yet. IRGC, of course, being the personal military of the mullahs. It's separate from the Iranian military. It's more ideological. People liken it to Hitler's SS. And that's a fair comparison. I think actually these are ideological zealots masquerading as soldiers. They're the ones that go fight the terror wars, all that kind of stuff. The asymmetrical warfare is what they specialize in. But Douglas Murray here has to sell. By the way, he works for the Israeli government. In case you are wondering, he sometimes pretends to be a journalist and pretends to be objective and this and that. No, he's paid by the Israeli government. So he's here to sell this war as a success. He has to. Now, don't worry about the whole but even as he admits, how are we going to get out of it? How are we going to stop? We've had so much success, we don't know how to stop. The whole thing has been a failure. We have failed at every stated goal we have. We have not captured their enriched uranium. We have not overthrown the regime. The Strait, that wasn't even an original war goal because the Strait was open, but now it's closed. And so Douglas Murray says, no, that this has been a great strategic success. No, it hasn't. The biggest strategic loss the United States has faced, and it's not just gas prices or anything like that, is the world now sees how weak we are. Everybody thought, including me, we would be able to topple the Iranian regime if we wanted to. And now the administration's already saying, no, regime change isn't happening. Now, they'll claim, we already did the regime change. And then the next sentence, they'll tell you, but the regime isn't changed because the RGC is still in charge and the mullahs are still in charge. There's still an Ayatollah Khomeini, but whatever, the 90-year-old dude's dead, so we can try and sell this thing as a regime change. If you're confused, yeah, we all are. But this is not a strategic success. It can't be. We're worse off than when we started. Our gas prices are higher because, again, the Strait is shut down. The world sees how weak we are. I mean, if you're China, you're sitting there just waiting for Trump to leave office, so a president that's a little more stable, to go take Taiwan. I don't see why they wouldn't. We can't overthrow the Iranian regime. What are we going to do to the Chinese government? The Russians aren't going to stop attacking Ukraine. What are we going to do to them? The whole thing's ridiculous. We were conned into this war, and now we're stuck. Now we don't know what to do. We have hardly any cards left to play other than to keep escalating. We can't negotiate. I don't think the Iranians want too much. They know they're in a position of power. They know this war is unpopular, that the clock is ticking on the Trump administration to get this thing done and get the hell out. Even Murray says right there, hey, now we're all wondering how we get out. The Iranians know they don't have to hold out very long before the U.S. just has to pull back and stop, before they lose all support. The U.S. is in a really bad spot. And then they'll complain and say, well, and by they, I mean Trump and the administration will say, well, this whole thing would have been successful if we could have just gotten the American people on board. Well, yeah, I wonder why you can't get the American people on board. It's because this whole thing's fucking stupid. That's why. They did no work ahead of time. They didn't roll out a propaganda machine. They didn't do any of that. We've played that video of John Bolton criticizing the Trump administration. Man, they didn't even try to sell this war. They didn't spend a year, making credible weapons of mass destruction claims. Everybody saw right through the whole nuke thing. They did the 12-day war. They already used that justification. You can't say you obliterated the nuclear program and then come back and say, well, but now we got to invade to go get all the nuclear material. It's like, what? I thought you already destroyed all that. You sold the 12-day war as a great success. So obviously it's been just a complete messaging failure on the Trump administration. It's really, again, proven the art of war to be true. You need the consent of the people for a war. Even if, you think you can bypass Congress by not technically voting for it. Nah, dude, there are real political consequences to pay for this. And the Republicans are going to pay for it when the midterms come. And it's too bad because the left, I do think, is still even worse, but the right has to be, punished for this. It's got to be the neocons' last breath. And I think it is. I don't think that we're ever going to see a president sold on a war this easily again. Because the legacy of Donald Trump has been really tarnished by this whole thing. Even if he's able to get out of it now and the strait opens back up, this is going to be a huge black mark on his administration. So I don't see how he ends up spinning this thing as a win. I think we're past this point. It's been way too chaotic. I just don't see it. I don't see it going well. So next thing we've got is tax day. We're going to give the whole Iran thing a break. It's been a while. I'm sick and tired of this stupid war. So let's talk about something else I'm really sick and tired of, and that's our taxes. The taxes are too damn high. That's right, the old meme about rent. So let's talk a little bit about how much we actually pay in taxes. And I live here in California. We all like to make fun of California anyways. So, we're going to talk about the federal government, and then we're going to talk a little bit about California. So if a person is making, I just picked a number here, let's say $80,000. That person is going to pay 38.9% of their income in taxes to the federal government, to the California government, which also has an income tax. Then you got Social Security, Medicare, et cetera. That's everything that if you work in California, you make $80K, you look at your pay stub, that's everything that's deducted there. So over a third of your income gone immediately. So you pay your taxes, you're a good citizen, you got your little bit of money you get to take home, and now you want to go buy some food at the store. Now, minimum, you're paying 7.25% in sales tax. You paid tax to make your money. Now you got to pay taxes to spend your money. Again, that's minimum. Most cities are going to throw a couple percentage points on top of that. I think in San Francisco, it's like 10%. You want to spend your money, there you go. You want to own property? You want to buy a house to raise your kids on? Well, housing's not expensive enough in the Golden State. So you got to pay 1% of your property value every year in property tax. Plus, you have some additional stuff on top of that thrown on by the local governments. So you got a $500,000 house. Well, guess what? That's $5,000 a year you've got to pay in property tax. So again, in case you weren't keeping track here, you already paid over a third of your taxes on a third of your income in taxes. Then when you went to the store to buy some food for your family, you had to pay another 7.25%. Then for the privilege of owning your own house, you get to pay property tax on that. But you got to get somewhere. You got to go to work. You got to go from your house. You got to go to the store. So you need some gas. So the California government and the feds as well. I think the feds, it's like, is it 60 cents or something in gas tax? But California, they charge $1.30 minimum on each gallon of gas. So just for the privilege you get. Now, you would think, oh, well, all that goes to keeping the roads good. No, it doesn't. The roads here suck. So all that money's going somewhere. They were supposed to have to spend that money all on roads, but they overrode that law. So now the gas tax money can be spent in other areas, not just on our roads. And then on top of that, you able to work enough to pay your income tax, to buy a house so you could pay your property tax. You bought whatever it is you wanted at your 7.25% sales tax. And so you buy your car. You pay sales tax on the car, by the way, and now you got to register the damn thing. $600 a year for my truck. Not really a nice truck, not a new truck, still $600 a year. And then on top of that, because of our insurance climate, insurance prices have doubled. For some people, they've tripled. Because California has all sorts of ridiculous restrictive insurance laws. Most insurance companies have just left the state. They said it's, too big of a pain in the ass to deal with. So by the time all is said and done, well over half of the money you make goes to the government. Whether it's your local government, state government, or the federal government, well over half. For some people, it's probably closer to 2/3, because then you've got, you pay all your taxes, and then you want to buy stocks or something, and then you sell them again. You get to pay capital gains tax. I mean, there's all sorts of taxes I didn't cover here. I just wanted to hit some of the basic ones for the normal folks out there who are paying these every single year. Most people probably don't see big capital gains tax bills. I hope you do. Good for you. That's awesome. Hopefully you're finding a way to legally get out of that, your step-up basis and all those kinds of things. But I'm not judging. Someone's got to pay Uncle Sam. If that's you on your capital gains, oh well, sorry. Get a good tax planner. That's always if you take anything from this episode, get a good tax planner. They're worth it, 100%. So all said and done, we've paid our half to 2/3 of our money to the government, which, to put it all in perspective again from our last episode, I know we covered this, but the colonists started a revolutionary war over a 5% sale tax, by the way. That's what it took to start the Revolutionary War, overthrow the parliament, and tell the king to go kick rocks. 5% sale tax. They're looking down on us, the founding fathers. They think we're just such pussies. They have to. How they look down on us, the way that we, look at the Soviets, or we're just like, how could you ever allow a government to enslave you like that? Or the way that we look at the North Koreans, like, how are those poor brainwashed people just slaves to their government like that? And the founders are looking down on us the same exact way. Like, we have failed them so miserably to allow just such a massive authoritarian state to lord over us and enslave us for half to 2/3 of the year. That's what they're doing. You're working for the government for a large portion of the year to pay all those taxes, and that's tragic. Really wish we could do something about that. I really wish there were some good people in Congress who could help us with that, which we're going to talk about later. But I've got a solution to this. I wish that Republicans would take this up right now. It should be illegal for the government to take the deductions out of your paycheck. Because the problem with this is not enough people look at their pay stubs. Since the money never entered their bank account, they don't really register how much the government's taking. They just see how much, shows up from their paycheck. They see that, if they look at their pay stubs at all, they see, oh yeah, half my paycheck went to the government, or a third, whatever. I'm a good citizen. What the Republicans should do is that no deductions out of your paycheck. Every month, you've got to write a check. You've got to do a direct deposit. You got to go show up to your local office with cash to pay your taxes. Because once we did that, people would start paying a lot more attention to their tax bills. People would start getting a lot more pissed off about how much taxes they're having to pay, because they're actually seeing it in their account, and then they're having to physically hand the money over. This whole the whole income tax racket here of we're just going to deduct it from your paycheck right away. It's such a scam. It's such an easy way for the government to hide how much they're actually taking and to really cushion the blow. We need to end that. We need to make people hand over their tax money just like you do at the end of the year. April 15th rolls along, and if you owe money, you got to actually write a check. We should be doing that every single month. Our taxes would be much lower. People would be a lot more pissed off if we did that. A lot more pressure on the government. So first, that's my tax recommendation for the Republicans. Get rid of the paycheck deductions. Please make people actually hand over the money. There'll be so much more pressure on the left to lower the taxes. There will be, I promise. Someone said that voting should be done on tax day. I like that too. It should be the day after tax day. April 16th is when election should be, or easier, just move tax day, but whatever. I think that's a great idea too, to put taxes more front and center on people's mind, because it needs to be. It's ridiculous, the amount of taxes we're paying.